So today we're going to be working on going through a whole EOC with you. We're going to do 2 videos at 25 each, and this grade at the end, you'll fill out a Google form tomorrow, and that will replace your benchmark grade, whatever you make on that. So let's go over all of them. The first one is saying this is your bank account, this line, the number of deposits, like how many times you put money in, and then how much money is in your bank account. What is the rate of change of the balance with respect to the number of deposits? So rate of change are the fancy words for slope. Balance with respect to the number of deposits. So balance is our y. With respect just means over deposits. So per deposit. So we need to find our slope. So rise over run. So how far up from one point to the next do you go? And it doesn't matter which points you choose. So I'm going to choose just the first 2 points, make it easy. So I go up 1, 2, 3, 4. I go up 4, but we're not counting by ones, so be careful. I'm counting by 25. So 25, 50, 75, 100. So this change is 100. And then, so that's change in y. Remember slope, change in y over change in x, or rise or run, whichever way you want to think it. I rose 100. I run. This is counting by 1, so I run 1. So $100. So the first time I put in a deposit in the bank, I went from $25 to $100. The second, $125. The second time I put in money, now I'm at $225. So it just looks like every time they go to the bank, they put $100 in. $100 for a deposit. Number 2, simplify it. So remember, if there's a negative, that's a -1, and you have to distribute that -1. Here, there's a +1, but multiplying by a +1 is not going to change anything. So that's the first thing you want to do, is get rid of all of your parentheses. So that -1 is multiplying to 8. We get -8x. The -1 is multiplying to -5. So we get +5. And then again, 1 times 5x is still 5x. 1 times 3x squared. Oh, -3x squared. I just messed the question up. -3x squared. And so if you see, when we combine like terms, the first thing we want to combine is x squared. X squared. So we're going to combine 7x squared and -3x squared. So when I go to combine them, obviously either going to be 4 or 10. It's 4. So where the biggest mistake is, people say it's 10 because they think they have to add over 7x squared, but you only go opposite if you go over equal signs. We don't have any equal signs here. So 7 minus 3 is 4. -8x plus 5x. So it's 4. So this is gone and this is gone. -3x plus 5. That's F. If you forgot to distribute that negative to the -5, that's how you would get a -5. So be careful. Multiple choice questions are tricky in math. If you make one mistake, that answer is usually there. Okay. A fine art, pause the video and read this question. Okay. After you read the question, one thing I notice on all these equations are all of these are different symbols. Not one of them is the same. So someone can buy that for no more than $1,000. No more than. Meaning $1,000 is the maximum they're allowed to spend. They can't do greater than that. That doesn't work. They can only do less than it. So normant, more than. That also means they can do equal to it as well. So our symbol is less than or equal to. You guys realize on the test, if there's two answers with the two same types of symbols, it's probably one of those two. So as a test taking skill, like usually they do two distractions and then two that could possibly be the answer for you to choose from. Okay, X is the number of tickets for the upper section. X equals the upper section. Y equals the lower section. So $56 for the upper section. So that's why it's 56X. Plus the lower section is 25% more than the cost of the upper section. So we need to find 25% of 56. %of 56. How do you guys remember how you find the percentages of something? Turn it into a decimal. So you have 25% as a decimal. The easiest way I've been told, everyone always tells you move the decimal 2 places to the left. So it's 0.25. Somebody just told me you can divide by 100 and it'll always get the right thing. So if you divide by 100, you're getting the same answer, but that way you know your decimal place is in the right spot. So to go from percent to decimal, you move it, divide by 100. Easiest way. Never thought about teaching it that way. All right, so that's 25%. So we need to find 25% of 56. So we need to multiply those together. So what is 56 times 0.25? 14. Plus 14 to what? So to find the cost of the lower section, because lower section, that means you're closer to the ballet. So it's going to be more expensive. It's like a concert. The closer to the stage, the more expensive. So we're going to add 14 to 56 to get 70. And that will be the cost of the upper section. So 70y. All right, just test taking skills. If you had absolutely no idea how to do this question and you only looked at the answers, it's obviously C. We worked it out and found out it's C. But if I was just looking at the answers, I don't even know what the question says. 56x, 56, 56x. This one's 42. That's probably not right. 42y, 70y, 70y. Probably not this one. This symbol repeats twice, so it's probably this answer. So it's just an educated guess if you don't know how to work it out. All right, keep going. Hey, we just reviewed this. Function R is in the form ax squared plus c, where a and c are both greater than 1. Which graph could represent R? A and c are greater than 1. What do you think? I think if you don't know, use Desmos, because we have Desmos to use. So we don't even know what A and C are, but if you type this into Desmos, I'm going to go to their test practice, since that's what we're doing. And we're in South Carolina State Standards, graphing, start practice. Y equals ax squared plus c. sliders. Okay, but it said A and C are greater than 1. So I'm going to put 3 and 5 because those are numbers greater than 1. Looks like that. So which one do you think it is? The other one. F? F or J? Very similar. So if you play, remember the number outside on the back moves the graph up or down. So if it was negative, it'd be down. But we're doing it positive. Let's go move it up. So it doesn't matter what number we put here. As long as it's positive, it's going to be above the x-axis. So that gets rid of H and G because those are below the x-axis. Now we have to figure out if it's F or J. So that must be the A part of your equation. F, so if it was negative, if it was greater than 1, so let's do a number less than 1. So let's do like less than 1. So 1/2. It got wider. 1/5. It got wider. 1/9. It's getting wider. But greater than 1 would be skinnier. So it's J. We want the skinnier version above the x-axis. So skinnier above the x-axis, J. So just a quick review of your translation equation. If it's a number in front of x squared, that's what this A is in here, greater than 1 is a vertical stretch. So if you think about taking slime and stretching it out as far as you can, it gets skinnier. But if you push it together vertically, it's going to compress it and make it fatter. So that's if it's between 0 and 1. And then outside your equation, this is a C, even though we usually do a K, but that moves it up or down. So if it's positive, it's moving up. If it's negative, it's moving down. Greater than 1, those are all positive. So it should have moved my graph up, and greater than 1 is a vertical stretch. So that should make it skinny and up. Let's go to the next one. Okay, there's 2 different ways to do this one. We want to write a linear equation. So remember, linear is y equals mx plus b. So we just need the slope and the y-intercept. The slope and the y-intercept. So first thing I would do is find the slope. y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. And there are a lot of x and y1s, x and y2s. Choose your favorite 2 points. I like this one because they're low numbers, no decimals, and this one, low numbers, no decimals. But you can choose whichever of the points on here. So we have -2, 15, and 3, -5. Remember x1, y1, x2, y2. You can label them up here if you would like to do that. So y2, -5 minus 15 over 3 minus -2. Make sure your point lines up. If you put the 15 on top, then the -2 needs to be right directly below it. 2 negatives make a positive, and then you put in a calculator. I get -20 over 5, which is -4. So my slope's -4. We don't know my y-intercept, but if you look at your answers, which equation is it? Which one has a slope of -4? A. A has a slope of -4. A has a slope of -4. Another way you can do it is use your linear regression formula. Remember, you'll write this table in. I'm going to show you. You write this table into Desmos, and we do y1 is approximately mx1 plus b. And it will give you the equation. So I'm going to pause the video and enter all these data points in and type in that equation. Okay, so I typed in all my points in the table. I just hit add a table, typed them all in, and then I'm going to do y1 to get the subscript of 1. You just push 1 and it automatically goes there. Is approximately right next to 1. mx1, again, just type 1 and it automatically goes there, plus b. The squiggly line is beside number 1. You hit shift and then that squiggly line beside number 1. It's approximately. And so m is -4, b is 7. So m is -4, b is 7, which is what we chose. So y equals -4x plus 7. There we go. Y equals -4x plus 7. All right, let's keep going. That's a big one. A lot of information. So what we're doing from here to here is factoring. From here to here, we're factoring. So A times C. So it multiplies to A times C and adds to B. So our B is in the middle, 7. And 2 times -15 is -30. You got F but backwards? Same thing. Does not matter which parentheses you put first. Yeah. So what was the two numbers that multiplied? What'd you get? 10 and 3? It has to be a -3 to add to a positive set. So I do the reverse box method with you guys. There's other ways you can do it, whichever way you want to do it. Add an x to these numbers, so 10x, -3x, and pull out your Gray's common factor. So 2 and 10, 2 is our Gray's common factor there, x squared and x, both have an x, 2x times x gives me 2x squared, x times -3 gives me -3x. 2x times what gives me 10x? So 2 times 5 gives me 10x. That already had the x. And then just to check, 5 times -3 is -15. So you're right. 2x minus 3. Oh, minus 3. And x plus 5. That's not an option. It's not an option. That's weird. I've never actually seen somebody it not be an option. Interesting. So just thinking this one through a little bit, you usually FOIL these, the first one to the first one, the second one to the last one, this one to this one, this one to this one. And to get your last number, it's the 3 to the 5. So 3 to the 5, -5 would give me -15. So it could be this one to check, but 3 to the 5 would give me +15, so it can't be that one. And -3 times -5 would be +15, so it can't be that one. So it'd either be F or J if you want to try to work it backwards. But it can't be F because if you worked it backwards, we would get x plus 3x minus 5 and multiply in 2x squared, 3x, negative 10x, negative 15. So combine like terms, we get 2x squared minus 7x minus 15. And it is a positive 7 and not negative. So that's why it can't be F. Okay, moving on. We got lots of questions. Sorry to give you multiple ways of doing it. All right. This graph is shown on this grid. Which ordered pair is a solution to this? This is a tricky question because a lot of people will say this is less than and they shade below. But if you solve for y, which is how you graph it, you're going to divide by negative and flip the sign, and you'll be shading above. So if I were you, I get this question, graph this in Desmos. Graph in Desmos. Don't need this. Negative 1.25x minus 5y is less than 2.9. Is less than 2. See, it's shaded above because if I solve for it, you're flipping the sign. So we need numbers above that line. So we need to see where our points are above that line. So we have negative 4.5, negative 4.5 right here. 1.5, 1.5, negative 2. 1, 2. Oh, it's counting by half. Negative 2 is down here. Negative 1, 0. Negative 1, 0. And 0, negative 1, 0, negative 1. If I graph all of my points, only one of them is above the line. All of the other points are below the line. So it has to be this point above the line. Negative 1, 0. When we get to solving inequalities, remember you have to flip the sign if you multiply or divide by negative. By flipping the sign, because I had to divide this by negative 5, now I'm shading above, so that's why it is above. All right, next question. Not trying to harp on one. Got lots to do. Pause it, solve it, see how we do. We just worked on solving yesterday. Distribute, combine like terms, move your variable, add or subtract, distribute. So the 5 is going to be multiplied to the 7. The 5 is going to get multiplied to the 3. It doesn't get multiplied to the x because it's outside the parentheses. Equals. This a lot of people mess up because what's being distributed to this parentheses is a negative 1. Negative 1 times negative 9 is a positive 9. Negative 1 times a negative 2 is a positive 2. So distribute, combine like terms. So 35x and negative x is 34x minus 15. Negative 4x plus 2x is negative 2x plus 9. Move your variable to one side. Add over your 2x. Two-step equation. Add or subtract. So we're going to add over our 15. (15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24). Divide over by 36. 24 over 36. So it was 24 over 36. 24. Totally messed up. 2/3. 2/3. Remember, if this equation is just too hard for you to solve, if you set the left side, graph the left side, and then graph the right side, where they intersect is your answer. 0.667. 0.667 is my answer. The x of it, 0.667, where they intersect is your answer. And if you aren't sure what 0.667 is, you can just type it, 0.667, and then make that into a fraction. It's not letting you. Okay. Well, then in that case, you'd have to just, this is 0.5, put that in a calculator, and this is 0.6, repeating. So it'd obviously be G. So if this is just not what you're good at solving, and sometimes that's just a really complicated equation. Put the left side in for graphing, and then put the right side in where they cross is your answer. Or is a good way to check your answer. Okay, which graph represents the domain X or Y? X. X. All real numbers greater than or equal to -7. So greater than or equal to -8. I read 7. -8. And less than -4. So it's in between -8 and -4. So remember, your equal to line means it's going to be closed at -8. So I'm going to get my Post-it note out. Domain is X values. I use this Post-it note a lot. Closed at -8. So at -8 right there. It's not even at -8. Not that one. -8. Where's the graph? It's not even at -8. Not that one. -8. Okay. -8 and closed. -4 and open. Good. This one is not right at all. So it's B. Which is the equivalent expression? So let's start the easy. 20 over 6. It's all online. I wish you could. What did I say? 20 over 6? 10/3. 10/3. So 10 over 3. So it's not G. All right. Remember, you subtract your exponents on top from on bottom. So it'd be x to the 7th minus -3. So you add. Or another way to think of it is if it's a negative exponent, it's not happy where it is. To make it happy, you change it. So if it's on the bottom and negative, it's going to move to the top and become positive. If it's on the top and negative, it's going to move to the bottom and become positive, the exponent. The bottom negative, then it's going to move to the top and become positive. So that leaves us with 10 x's on top. If I have 5 y's on top and 2 y's on bottom, and you cross them out, how many are left? 3. Where are they? Top or bottom? Top. 3 on top. if I have 3 z's on top and 10 on bottom, and I cross them out, how many do I have left? There's 10 on bottom. 1, 7. Yes, 7. 6, 7. And I just wrote too many, so ignore that one. So then I have 7 on bottom. F. Yep. Again, test taking skills, 10x is on top twice. Y to the third is on top 3 times. Z to the 7 is on bottom twice. Yeah.
Z. Oh, never mind. X.
So. A linear function, f(x) y is graphed on the corner plane. Graph of a new line is formed by changing slope to 3/2 and the y-intercept of 5. Which statement about the relationship between the two graphs is true? Okay, so my first equation is f of x. The second equation, I changed the slope to 3/2 x, the y-intercept of 5. So it's 5. So there's my green is my old graph to my new graph of red. The graph of the new line is steeper than the graph of the original line, and the y-intercept is translated down. So the new graph, your y-intercept was 0, 0, and now it's 0, 5. So is your y-intercept translated down? No, it's translated up. So the y-intercept was translated down, the y-intercept was translated up, the y-intercept was translated up, the y-intercept was translated down. It was not translated down, so we're got rid of these two. So now we're just at B or C because it was translated up. So the difference between B and C, the graph of the new line is less steep than the graph of the original, or is the graph of the new line steeper than the graph of the original? So which line is steeper is what we're looking for. The original green line. Which mountain would you want to climb up for a long period of time? Green, because it's less steep. So the steeper line is the new graph. So the new graph is steeper. So that means the new line is steeper. See. The slope of this line was 1. The slope of my new line was 1.5. So the new line is steeper. All right. Next one. 1.5. 3 halves. 3 halves, which is 1.5. So the table shows the quadratic function of h. What is the range? Like you said, range is y. So we're looking at our y values down here. I see 2, -1, -2, -1, 2, 23, 34. And this is just some of the points. So quadratic is our U shape. And it looks like the lowest point of our U shape is -2. This looks like our y value is -2. All real numbers. No. All real numbers greater than or equal to -1. Well, there's -2. So there's one below -1. All real numbers greater than or equal to -2. I like that one. All real numbers greater than or equal to 0. That means you're losing -1 and -2. So it can't be that one. So H. You could also graph these in Desmos and then start at the bottom, work your way up. Starts at -2 and goes up. They love their domain and range questions on the EOC. All right. Pause the video. Read this question. So the total number of photos in all emails of company A, number of photos, this is A. This is little a. This whole sentence just said little a. Is 12 more than the total of company B. So A has 12 more than the total of B. So if I add 12 to B, I get A. But that's per email. So we also have to include 20 promotional emails for A and 15 for B. So we know 20 goes with little a. So it's not this one. And then the other sentence, each email of company A has 8 fewer photos than the email company B. A, company B. This is always the equation I get messed up. So each email of company A has 8 fewer photos than each email of company B. So if A had 10, 8 fewer photos. B would have 18. If A is 20, B would have 28 because 8 fewer. Company A has 8 fewer photos than company B. So our equation is it A equals B minus 8 or B equals A minus 8. So if I take A, 10, if I take B, 18, and minus 8, I get 10. If I took A and minus 8, I would not have gotten B. So there's your equation. Not the easiest question, but you can do it. You can do it. What is the y-intercept of the line graphed on the grid? Y-intercept, where you cross your y-axis. Y-intercept is a point. So our point we cross is right here. And it's a decimal. So it's in between -3 and -4. And I'm not sure which. And I don't know how specific it wants you to be. So if I were you, I'd put those 2 points in a table. What are my 2 points? If your y1 is approximately mx1 plus b, there's your line, 0, -3.5. Oh, I have my 0 in the wrong spot. My bad. 0, -3.5. So I've never seen the EOC this easy about being able to do this. If you know how to do this, you're going to answer like half the questions this way. If you have questions on this, please get a hold of me. Please, please, please. Keep going. Simplify the expression. Okay, we're going to distribute. get the calculator. Right. Negative 2/5 times 5. Negative 2. Negative 2/5 times negative 4. I'll leave it as a fraction because the answers are in a fraction, right? So negative 2, okay, and this is positive, so I'm going to put a plus 8/5 plus 7k squared. Combine like terms, 8k squared, 7k squared is 15k squared. Minus 2k plus 8. There we go. Which statement true about this equation? Going back to slow down. All right. Which statement is true about the following? And it's all in factored form. So we are going to factor it. Negative x squared, whoops, minus 8x plus 20. If you notice, all of these have a negative factored out of it. So I'm going to go ahead and do that for my Grace compactor. I'm going to factor out a negative 1. So you'll get negative and negative is positive. Negative and negative is a positive. Positive and negative is a negative. So we are multiplying to negative 20 and adding to 8. So it multiplies negative 20 and adds to 8. If you don't know, make your list. 20 divided by 1 is 20. 20 divided by 2 is 10. 20 divided by 3 gives you a decimal, so it's not that one. 20 divided by 4 gives you 5. The next number I'm trying is 5. So it's one of these lists, and one has to be negative. So since it's adding to a negative number, we're subtracting these to get 8. So 20 minus 1 is 19, so it's not that one. 10 minus 2 is 8, so it's that one. 5 minus 4 is 1. 2 and 10. If we're adding to a positive, you want the bigger number to be positive, which means the little one's negative. If you're adding to a negative, you want the bigger number to be negative. So we get our answer. X minus 2, x plus 10. With a negative on the outside, because that's what we factored out. Yeah, bring it back. X minus 2, x plus 10. X plus 10, x minus 2. X minus 10. No. No. That's a plus 2. We have a minus 2 and a plus 10. No. So it's F. If you're not good with factoring, graph it. Negative x squared, negative 8, 20. Negative 8, 20. Here are your zeros, negative 10 and 2. Your zeros are where you cross your x-axis, negative 10 and 2. Negative 10 and 2. That's the only one that's negative 10 and 2. I didn't even have to factor it. Okay, this is our exponential equation. So instead of our linear equation, we've been doing y1 is approximately a. Hold on, let me think about that. All right, so your exponential equation, y1 is approximately a parentheses b to the x1 minus h plus k. That is the equation. So I'm going to put all these numbers in and find our desmos and then type in that equation. All right, so I typed in our numbers and I zoomed out to see the highest point. And I'm going to go into settings and go to negative 20x and positive 20x. You usually see something better if it's more realistic. All right, and then our equation, y is approximately, y1, approximately a parentheses b raised to the x1, that's what makes it exponential, is putting this up here, minus h in parentheses plus k. So it gives you everything, so your equation is y equals a, 28.8, b is 1 point, I'm going to say 2, so the x, h is 1, in parentheses, or it doesn't stay in the exponent, and then k was 0.01. I just rounded some of these. I didn't put the exact number in. I could go to the 1. So there's the equation. I'm going to label it f of x so that I can figure out f of 18 and get my answer. So when, at 18 months, 736.12. That's closest to this one. So we did a lot of rounding, which is why it's not precise, but that'd also be it. I bet they didn't want it to be this complicated. Let me see how complicated they wanted it. A, B, yeah. So, okay, next one. Which of the following is equivalent to this? Looks like they just put it in slope-intercept form. So all you have to do is solve for y. Solve for y. I'm not even going to do it real quick. I'm just curious if we can guess the answer. Let's see if we can guess the answer. So the slopes are either 5, 6, 6/5, 5, 6, or 6/5. There's 2 of each. All right. And then -3 is the oddball here, right? It doesn't match any of them. So it's not that one. There's 2 5/2, and there's only 1 negative. So it's probably not that one either. So then that gives us a 50-50 chance. You think it's J? Let's see if you guessed it right. So when we solve it, subtract over 5x. I could be wrong. It could happen. I did not do any math in that guessing. Divide over by -6. 5 over 6x. It's obviously 5 over 2. Oh my gosh, I think it is. Man, my guessing did not work out this time. It's F. Dang it. My logic was flawed. It happens. Another way to do it, graph this in Desmos, graph this in Desmos. And you're looking for them to be the exact same. You were right. So you can graph all 4 of these in this one and just see which line is actually on the same line. That'd be the easiest way to do it. All right, the table represents the point of a linear function, linear, line, forms a line. What is the rate of change of y with respect to x? So what's the slope? That's all this question's asking, what's the slope? I'm going to choose the 2 nicest point because these are ugly and plug it in. So y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. y2, so I'm going to call this my first point. So this will be x1, y1. This will be x2, y2. So y2 is 5 minus y1 is 12. x2 is 0 minus x1 is negative 3, so plus 3. The bottom's 3. 5 minus 12 is negative 7. So your answer is D. Remember with negative, the negative can be out front, it can be up on top, or it can be at the bottom. All of these are the same. And if you don't like this formula, you can use Desmos and your approximately and figure out what M is. I hope you're good at, most of you guys were really good at solving the equation though. The teacher purchased a total of 460 notebooks and pencils. Each notebook cost $1.75. Each pencil cost 5 cents. If the teacher spent 218, how many notebooks did the teacher purchase? Okay, so we have two equations here. Total, she bought 460 notebooks and pencils. So we're going to say notebooks is X, pencils is Y. Total meaning I add them together, I get 460. She could have bought 400 notebooks and 60 pencils. Total, that's 460. She could have bought 60 notebooks and 400 pencils. I do not know. But I do know that the notebooks cost $1.75. So we said notebooks was X. So 1.75X. Pencils cost 5 cents. 0.05 pencils is Y. And the total cost is $218.50. So you will graph it. That's the easiest thing to do. We're looking, it's a long test. We're looking for some easy shortcuts here. Where they intersect is our solution. Whoops. So 115, 345. 115, 345. So how many notebooks did she buy? I can tell you she bought notebooks is X. 115 notebooks. 345 pencils. If I add those together, it should be 460. And if I times them each by their cost and add that together, I should get $218.50. I have an exponential graph. Is shown below. Just so you know, these are going on forever this way and forever this way. If your graph hits the end of a graph, it doesn't have to have an arrow. You have to just assume it's going to keep going on. Remember with exponentials, they have a horizontal line, which it never crosses. It just gets closer and closer and closer and closer to it. So that graph actually never touches -3. So we're asked the domain and range. So let's find them. Domain is our x values. We start on the left, work our way to the right. Start on the left, work our way to the right. The graph starts right there. Right here. That arrow is heading left forever. Because domain, we're just thinking left and right. I know it's headed up, but that's not what we're asked. Domain is left to right. So it's heading left forever. It's heading right forever. Right is positive infinity. Domain is x values. Range is your y values. Start at the bottom, work your way up. That is spelled wrong. Start at the bottom, work my way up. The first point I get to is -3. So it starts at -3, but it's not touching -3. It never touches that line. So it's starting at -3 and going, last part of my y value, that's not helping me, is again this way, up forever. So from -3 to infinity. So or greater than -3. So the range is the set of all real numbers greater than -3. Yes. The domain is the set of all real numbers greater than -4. No. Domain is all numbers. Range is the set of all real numbers less than -3. Less than -3 is down here. So not that one. And the domain is the set of all real numbers less than -4. No. It goes on forever. Exponential goes on forever. So the only place we don't have points is down here. Keep going. The sum of the first n consecutive even numbers can be found using the equation where n is greater than or equal to 2. What is the value of n when the sum is 420? So s equals n squared plus n, as long as it's greater than 2. What is the value of n when the sum is 420? So sum is s, so this is 420 equals n squared plus n. So it's a quadratic equation. So we can solve by quadratic formula. We can solve by factoring. We can solve by graphing. And I didn't teach you complete square, so we're not solving that way. To solve this by graphing, you just have to set it equal to 0. So 0 equals n squared plus n minus 420. And then graph that. I'll go back, I promise. And remember, you can't put n into your calculator to graph. It has to be x. It cannot be this answer because it's negative, and our thing said it has to be greater than 2, so it has to be this answer, 20. And you could have also done your negative b plus or minus the square root b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. If you wanted to do it that way. A lot of people like that way. So just to tell you, what this question is literally saying is how many even numbers do I have to add up to get to 420? I did in the calculator. There were 20 numbers. 20 even numbers I had to add up to get to 420. So just so you understand what it's saying. Which equation represents this graph? You can solve for y, but you have Desmos. Graph it and figure out the answer. Graphed it, I got D. Don't miss these easy questions. They're too easy. All right, 24, which is a factor. So that means we're factoring this. So we want to know what multiplies to A times B and A times C and adds up to B. This is one of those questions we started out with factoring though, because there is no B. Remember ax squared plus bx plus c. B is the number with x, and there isn't one, so it's 0. 106. 81x squared, negative 25, multiplies to 106, adds to 0. If it's adding to 0, remember you can do the trick of taking the square root of that number. And it should give you your answer. It didn't, though. That's weird. All right, then let's list it. So 1 and 106, 2 and 53. 3, I get a decimal. 4, I get a decimal. 5, I get a decimal. 6, I get a decimal. 7, I get a decimal. There's gotta be something. Did I multiply 81 and 25 right? No, I didn't. 81 times 25 is 2025. 2025. Sorry. And then we can try to take the square root of that number. 45. 45. Because 45 times 45 gives you 2025. And if I subtract 1, then it gives you 0. So one's negative 45x, one's positive 45x. I would not spend your time working on Gray's common factor when you can do that in the graph. Remember, it's GCF of 81 and 45. It's 9. It's 9. So 9x, because they both have an x. 9x times 9x gives you 8x squared. 9 times what gives me 45? 5. 9 times 5 gives me 45. That has an x, so that'd be good. And this is basically the same thing again. 9 times what gives me negative 45? Negative 5. So we have 9x plus 5 and 9x minus 5. So it's F. Some people learned this on their own, and they just learned this is the difference of squares because 81 is a perfect square and 25 is a perfect square. And so you follow the equation A plus B, A minus B. So the square root of 81 is 9x and 9x. And the square root of 25 is 5. So positive 5, negative 5. If you remembered it through that equation, that's good too. Either way works. 25, last one we're doing today. The graph x squared, your parabola is shown. If 3 over 2x squared is g of x, what's the relationship? So x squared and 3x squared. 3 half x squared. So what is our relationship from the blue is the original, the green is the new one. The blue is the original, so the green is the green is narrower than the original. The green is wider than the original. It's moved up, it's moved down. So it's not moved up or down. Not this one. It is narrower. Agreed? Narrower. All right. So that's 25. We'll do 25 again tomorrow. You'll complete your Google form tomorrow, and that will replace your benchmark grade.